well, what would we expect? I can say for myself, I'm not a designer. I'm just a developer, and as I posted on Slack, we've built the basic wireframing for the application that we are building for the hackathon. And I've already seen the Bitcoin UI kit, and it's just phenomenal, phenomenal. There's no words to describe it. It's just amazing work, and I don't know how to do the bridge between the UX and the UI, but I understand that this my question might be too newbie for to ask in a design workshop. And I just feel like I need to learn more stuff, before jumping into the design stuff. That's why I'm looking for someone in the design community to help us bridge this, and so we can go faster in terms of development, and hopefully someone would submit our project to the designathon as well. So I hope that it's going to be mutually good for both parties.
Mm-hmm. Okay, awesome. So welcome everyone else who just joined. How about I just start to give a quick introduction and overview over the UI kit, and then we can talk a little bit about what we want to do. I could do a simple, hands-on workshop or how to mock up a specific user experience or so. But if there's other interest, we can do that as well. But how about I'll just give the quick intro here. So the UI kit is really, if you're familiar with coding, you probably use code libraries all the time. You don't write your frameworks, your data handling, all this stuff from scratch. You pull in lots of libraries. And developers are very much used to that. The thing is, if you open a design tool, if you open a new page there, it's always blank. There's absolutely nothing there. You have to start everything from scratch. And so the UI kit is kind of a library for you to get started with your color definitions, your text styles, your all kinds of different components. So you don't have to constantly redo all this really, really basic stuff. And there are lots of them out there. They go under the names of UI kit or UI libraries or design systems, a few different names for it, also with a few different properties and whatnot. The Bitcoin UI kit is, of course, targeted towards components specifically for Bitcoin design. Like, you're not going to find, how to format Bitcoin numbers and amounts and all that stuff and Bitcoin transactions in any other design system or UI kit. So it lives at bitcoinuikit.com, and it kind of came out of working on the Bitcoin design guide. If you're not familiar with that one, it's kind of the prime, like the big project of the design community, where we try to gather best practices for designing Bitcoin applications. And if you look at the screen behind me here, that might already look pretty familiar. We simply had a need to design a lot of, to mock up a lot of screens so we can not just explain those best practices, but also show them. And the byproduct of that was really the UI kit. There's also a partner project, Bitcoin Icons, which is at bitcoinicons.com. So if you just need icons for your application, there's all kinds of good stuff here. And those are a Figma library and also a code module that you can just pull into your application and just work with them. Here you can kind of see, it looks like the Vue module is downloaded 80 times a month and the React module 1,000 times a month. It's pretty good. I never look at those, but that's a good number here. Okay, so let's see. On the UIKit website, there's some info here if you want to contribute. Some people, like Reese and Aman035, they build code libraries around it. They're more or less well maintained. Wisdom created an Android version of this UI kit. There's also a list of these foundational elements here, colors and type styles. And then there's a list of screens here. And this one's a little bit out of date. I need to kind of get back to that one. So that is intended to show you all the screens in the UI kit. If, let's say, you just want to see what's in here for onboarding, or receiving Bitcoin or settings, you can quickly take a look here. And yeah, there's also a search for it. If you just want to search for, let's say, I don't know, privacy, it will just show you all the screens that contain the word privacy somewhere in the text. So it's pretty handy for people who don't want to go into Figma and just figure out what there is, or just want to have a web-based reference. That's also here. So that's it for the website. And the Bitcoin UI kit has been used for several different hackathons, smaller projects, concepts. Someone told me once that they used it in a job application and it helped them get a job. So that's pretty cool. The new Bitcoin Core app is based this is at bitcoincore.app that's currently in development. That is also based on the UI kit, as you can see here. The Join Market Web UI, that's a desktop application. It's also based on the UI kit with heavy modifications. And even Albi was actually based on the UI kit. And they also, since they've made all kinds of different changes, but you might recognize a few similarities here. So the idea is just projects, they don't just use it and then that's it, right? It's a good foundation for your design work. So you can quickly just, okay, thanks, Mark, for tuning in. You just use it as a foundation and you quickly, put your UI together, and then over time you personalize it and you might completely change it and then end up somewhere completely different. So yeah, that's kind of it. And if you click here, duplicate on Figma, and this is where I'll actually switch over to my Figma desktop application. So Figma has this thing called Community where people can publish files, and this is one of those published files. And here you see a little bit of explanation. You can see a bit of a history of changes that were made over time. You can leave comments. And then at the top right, you see get a copy. So if you're logged in, if you have an account, I'm going to press get a copy here, and then it will create my own version of it. And then I can do whatever I want here. Basically, it's just a fresh, brand new copy. And I'll just change the name here for Bitcoin Wallet UI Kit for workshop, October 17, 2020. Cool. And the way that the file here is organized, you have a lot of pages here on the left. So if you're not familiar with too familiar with Figma, you have pages. You can create as many as you want. They're pretty handy here on the top left. And each page at the top is dedicated to one particular user flow. So this is kind of the first use experience. Here is sending Bitcoin, which you might not expect to be so complex, but there's actually a lot of stuff covered here, all kinds of different scenarios and things that can go wrong and whatnot. And then further down in the list of pages, we have our colors, we have icons, the text styles, as you've already seen, form elements like buttons and inputs and keypads, Bitcoin-specific components like different kinds of QR codes, address input, fee picker, just a few different things there. Navigation from components for desktop and mobile. A few desktop samples here if you want to. The main pages, they're focused on mobile, but there are also some desktop samples here, like this one. And then there's some helper stuff further down. That's really just there for like the file cover here. Like that's what you see on the Figma community page. And here's the website, the design for the website as well. So that's kind of an overview. What questions, comments, thoughts do you have so far? So far, so good. Cool. So so a question here: how many of you are familiar with Figma, have used it before, know how to draw things, how components work, and these types of things? I can give a very quick, basic rundown of these as well, if you'd like. Would that be helpful?
A quick run through would be great if you had the time.
Okay, we'll do. So I'm going to create a new page here, and I'll just call that playground. So let's start with the basics. Okay, cool. So at the top left, you have your tools. Like you can press T, and then you can write text, and you have different typefaces and stuff. It has all the Google fonts, I think, there, and a few more. Then with R, I can draw rectangles, pick my colors, very basic stuff. I can round it as much as I want to. I have a pencil tool. I can draw stuff. So the basic tools are actually pretty straightforward. Oh, Jeremiah, you have a question. Please go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Christoph. Can you hear me?
Yep, can hear you well.
Okay, I wanted to ask, my team, the BTC Pay server, we are working on the project, and it seems our project is the color choice is quite different from the assets we have on the Bitcoin UI kit. Is it that do we have to follow exactly what is given here, or we just have to find our way through?
So the colors are different in BTC Pay Server than in the Bitcoin UI kit. So yeah, you can totally change if you make your own copy of the Bitcoin UI kit. You can change those colors around as you'd like. And let me get to that in a second here. So I'll hop into that right now. So if we look at I hope you can see my sidebar here. On the bottom right, there's a thing called color styles. There's this little, hopefully you can see that. There's this tab here. And in there are all the predefined colors. So if I give an object, I'm going to tell it use the orange here. Like orange is the primary color. And I'll also make my text the primary color. And then I can go in anytime and change this color style. Like I can say, well, BTC Pay uses green. And then, everything that has assigned this color variable then turns green. And if I go to other screens here now, everything is green now. So that's the UI kit has all of these things standardized. So if you quickly want to adjust it to, let's say, BTC Pay Server, the green that they use, or some other project that you use, they have, I don't know, purple or yellow or something else, you can very quickly customize the colors to your project. Does that help? Okay, cool. Glad. Okay, so that helps, and that's already that's one of the powerful things. I think the basic tools in Figma are actually very straightforward, but it's is using these styles that makes it powerful. So here, let's just let me apply a text style here. I want to have a big title, or maybe I want to have body text. So the UI kit has all these predefined sizes, and if I update let me see, this was title 136 now, and I'll put another one down here. So if I change this title now, let's say I want to use a different font. I want to use Caveat, make it bold. Then everywhere this text style is used, it will update in the whole Figma document. And that way that's pretty much like how it works in code. You have these variables that define certain colors or styles and whatnot, and you do the same in Figma. And then those can be very easily exported by developers into the code. And in Figma, everything also follows these guidelines. So I think that works for colors and for text. We have these styles that we can use. Let me see, did I screw anything up? Here we go. Let's say we have title 2, 28. Let's say I want to use a different font. What's a nice font? Let's use Space Mono. I want to use a mono font for all of these. There you go. Now all the fonts in all of the screens here are updated, except for this one. Seems like I didn't set that one up correctly. But that's the idea, that you can very quickly and easily customize this UI kit. And then another thing that we have in Figma are a thing called components. And that's another way of abstracting things. So let's say here we have a button component. So I'm going to make a copy of one of these. And there are all these variations of it that are predefined. So let's say, I have my screen here and I want a button. And let's say I'm going to double click here and then I can enter my text. Let's say it's a continue button. And let's say I want an icon on the left. Then there's a predefined layout for icons here. And maybe I want it to be just outlined. And let's say I want a different icon. Instead of an X, I want, let's say, a private key icon or so. So this way, with all of these styles and all of these components predefined, you don't really have to use the drawing tools anymore. You just kind of, pull these styles in and you pull these predefined components in, and you just kind of use these building blocks to create your interface. That's kind of the idea. So Figma has very few kind of fairly simple basic tools, but if you combine them in the right ways, it's pretty powerful. But it may not initially be super obvious how it works. And Rasha asked for an introduction to auto layout. So auto layout is amazing. I love it, but it's also a little bit counterintuitive. If you have experience with web design and CSS, you probably know how this works already. So let's say I'm drawing a frame here. A frame is a type of container. And let's see here in the top right, I can say, well, I want a frame the size of iPhone 14. Okay. So this is a container, and this is going to be my screen that I work in. And let's say I apply auto layout in here. Then everything in there will not be manually positioned by me. So let's say I have one version of this screen without auto layout and one with. I'm going to drag this button in the screen without auto layout. Then, I just put things in and it's wherever I drop it. I'm going to create a copy of this one, and then I'll drag it into the screen with auto layout. That looks pretty different. So I need to resize this real quick. So in an auto layout, okay, hold on a sec. In an auto layout screen, let's see. It's a little bit, it tries to be clever sometimes. In an auto layout screen, the layout of its containing element is governed by a few rules. So I can say they're governed here in the right corner. So I can say, well, I want my spacing to start in the top left, or in the bottom right, bottom left, or in the bottom right, or I want everything to be centered. And let's say I drag in another element, it will also be centered. And let's say you can see if I drag an element in my other screen, it's just going to be wherever I put it. And let's say, so you can kind of see how these things work here. And then there are a few more things, which is the spacing in between elements. And then there's the padding from the edges. So in this situation, I never actually manually adjust the position of anything. I only establish rules. And I can nest those in really complex ways. So for example, let's say I wanted to have two buttons next to each other here. I will just put them next to each other. And, maybe this one's a little bit big. I'm going to have to make them a little bit smaller. And I have to place them in the right way. But let's say I want to have two buttons next to each other here. I'll create a copies. I'll grab both of them, put them in another auto layout container. I say that they should be horizontally aligned. And I tell both of them that they should fill their container. So they're going to split the available space that they have. And so, I just need to deal with padding, and things just kind of automatically, line up. right? So it's it is a little bit complex. It takes a bit to get used to, but once you have the hang of it, it is incredibly powerful and useful when you have a lot of screens to lay out, because you're constantly tweaking text. And let's say in this situation, let's kind of put these here. Like this happens all the time. Let's say instead of one line of text, you add something, you have 2 lines of text, right? Here, I manually need to take these and I need to put them down here, and I need to take the whole thing, need to move it up here maybe. If I have my auto layout set up, then I can just start typing and it looks just fine, right? I don't have to deal with it. So that's a very powerful thing. It takes a little bit to get used to, though, like I said. How's that? How was that explanation? Cool. And if you look at everything in these screens, they all use auto layout for everything. So I can just change the text here, and updates, or I can grab this thing here and I can say I want some more, want a little bit more spacing. It seems like some of them are not all perfectly set up here. But yeah, that is the idea, that everything's based on parameters. And if you're a coder, then you really appreciate these things. Yeah. So yeah, even keypads like this here, all of these elements here are also based on auto layout. But it very quickly allows you to design things. Yeah. Any other questions around Figma and generally how things work?
A quick question for you, Christoph, and that is about prototyping. Do you have these screens prototyped, and then also what is the expectation around this for the design-a-thon? Are we expecting prototyped designs, or is that optional?
So around the design-a-thon, you can do whatever you want, right? And it will really vary between projects. Like the Bitcoin AI art, there's nothing to prototype there. There might be other projects where it's just not helpful. Let's say, I'm just making this up. Let's say the Bitcoin inheritance group, they try to do more a general exploration about the different types of inheritance systems and how they work legally and technical options. And it's really more about gathering the right information, then it might also not be helpful. If what you do in the design-a-thon is focused on specific user flows, then yeah, I think that would be a cool thing to have, but you don't have to. Like if you just click through them in slides, or just kind of do a nice video here where you kind of talk through things. Like it could also be something like this, where it's more like a user flow that's outlined here. It doesn't have to be a prototype. The goal is just to kind of communicate well what you came up with, and you can figure out what that is based on the specifics of your project. And you don't have to use the UI kit either. It's just an option.
Cool.
It could be wireframes, could be hand-drawn, could be any other tool. It can be Penpot, Sketch, Photoshop, Excel. I've actually known someone who has used Microsoft Excel to mock up interfaces, and it was actually pretty good, surprisingly.
No way.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Well, he loved it because he could it was a very complex application that involved a lot of data and data processing. So he loved it because he could actually, set up formulas and logic around them. So, yeah, just whatever you think communicates well. And yeah, I guess for prototyping, the UI kit is not set up for it yet. So the UI kit, the latest version it needs a bit of an update. And the reason for that is the following. We spent 9 months or so for the design guide to come up with this daily spending wallet reference design. And we just kind of finished it up. And we're creating a huge prototype with almost 200 screens for that one. And that'll be in its own Figma file. But and that will be its own prototype. But that will not go in here, because one of the problems is if let's say we hook up all of these screens here, it kind of creates a huge mess if you want to do anything different, because Figma leaves like all these lines in here, and if you want to change them, it's kind of a huge mess. So it might in the future, but it's not all hooked up because it's also not meant to portray one specific product. There might be a stuff about a wallet that's just on chain. Some other part of the UI kit might have the screens for Lightning. Another one might be a multi-sig wallet. So it doesn't all perfectly come together because it's more meant to offer a lot of different types of screens for you to base your work on. Hope that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely.
And are there any other questions right now? Cool. So I just wanted to, so I would go into maybe setting up an example, customizing a few screens. And what I was thinking is that we have the Taro project, and Taro will, if it all works out, introduce new, basically, tokens into Bitcoin wallets, the primary use case being stable coins. And maybe I'll just take a few screens here from the UI kit and just kind of see how we could adjust them to add this new functionality into the UI kit to just show how you would go about customizing some of these screens with slightly different functionality. How does that sound? Or would you like to mock up something different? What's the come on, man gif here? Not happy with it, huh?
No, I think he was talking about the Excel.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So let me change this one here back to inter here. Inter semi-bold. There we go. So you can imagine that during onboarding, you kind of need a screen that kind of explains. So instead of just saying manage your Bitcoin, it might also say and other digital assets, right? Cool. And so this would be a new onboarding screen. There might be other onboarding screens around backups and cloud storage that would probably be the same. Things about security that might also be the same. So let's just say, first time I load up the wallet, it looks like this. This is my awesome Bitcoin wallet. And then one of my onboarding screens will be here, this manage your Bitcoin and other digital assets. Yeah, your keys, your coins. Okay, it seems good. Let's see. We might also need let's say a send screen. So I'm just going to copy, let's say, the send screen here. I'm just gathering screens right now. So if we want to send our other digital assets, right, then maybe we can tweak this screen here. We also have tabs down here. And I'll show you how to, this is a component. If you look at the list of, I don't know if you can see it, there's a list of layers here on the bottom left in this sidebar. And any layer that is purple, that's a component. So it's an instance, a duplication of a component that inherits all the changes that are made to that. And what I would like in my Taro enabled wallet here, I would like, there are already 4. Let's see, it seems like there already are, there's like a hidden tab here. And I want, another tab called assets. So I'm changing here this component a little bit. So we don't have a good icon for it for assets, but let me see. Maybe there's already one in the system that we can use. Should we use a milk icon? Receive, save, share. What is a good? Let's use the sofa icon. We're pretty chill about our assets. Okay. So, and then, we're sending 0 sats here. The question is then, well, I have other stuff in my wallet too. How do I figure out what to send? So this button here, I think it's typically meant to that you can switch between sats and euro. So instead of typing in a number of sats, I would type in a number of euro. So maybe we just kind of repurpose this one, and we turn it into the sofa button. And then this is the one, assets are sofas now, that allows me to pull up a list of assets that I want to send. I'm going to copy this one real quick. And I'm going to go stealing again. I want to steal an overlay. Let's pick up this one here. So I'm going to paste that here. Nope, that was the wrong one. Where did I just get that overlay from? Uh-huh. Let me just copy this whole thing. I'm going to steal this overlay and there. Okay, now we have an overlay here. So let's see, this is kind of our fee picker. I don't really want a fee picker here. I want something like this. But let's see. Yeah, I want something like this here. Actually, let's go over here. Let's delete this. And we have a thing called an item here. That is one of the most used elements in UIKit. And then I will also search in my assets here for a thing called a divider. And I'll drag those in. And here you can see the auto layout is not working perfectly quite yet. Things are too big. I will grab both of these elements. And here in the top right, you see they have a fixed width set. I'm going to tell them to fill the container, and then they'll automatically adjust. So in this item here, let's say, okay, this is milk. That sounds good. I'm going to customize this one. And then here on the right, I just want some text, I guess. And I have like 5,000 of my fake digital dollars. And let's say, I want another one. And then I have fake digital euro. And I have fake digital yen. Fake digital yen. And this one was created by the European Central Bank. This one was created by, what is an American place called? Printing press. The American printing press. This one's called by, whatever. And here I have 100, and there I have, 721. Okay, cool. So my interaction would be, well, I'm here. I don't want to send sats. I click my sofa. Then I get this overlay here. And then in the next screen here, let's say I've picked fake digital dollars. Those are called F dollars. Then, okay, cool. Now I understand as user, I have my F dollars picked, and I can type in a number, and then I can send them. So, okay, cool. Now we have added assets to our send screen. And of course, I could go in here and I could pick, let's say these are orange and these are blue, let's say. And the fake digital dollars, they're not milk. Let's see, do we have any other amazing icons here that we can use? Anything fun? Okay, they're represented by little airplanes. It's just what they do. Yeah, so that's that was an example of how you'd go about taking something, copy pasting, and then making the adjustments that you need for your functionality. A similar one, something similar you could do. I'm going to copy one screen here from an activity screen. And so let's say we're over here. And okay, it seems like, okay, I'm gonna copy this tab bar down here. I'm gonna throw it over here. Then something you'll notice here about this tab item mobile component, it has over here, those are called properties, component properties. Well, I just need to press a toggle and it changes its color, and it doesn't always work so perfectly. But these component properties are what fairly easily allow you to customize things. And then here, I would mock up a screen that shows, your digital assets. And then, I could copy these over here again. Let's see. There we go. Now these are my digital assets that I have here in my wallet. So now we have a Bitcoin wallet that has some type of functionality for fake digital assets. How's that for so far? I'm very used to this stuff. I've used Figma a lot, so there's probably a lot of it that I'm skipping. But that's kind of how I would go about it. And one thing you'll notice is that I didn't manually place anything here. It's all using auto layout, and I changed a little bit of text. I didn't draw any icons. Those were all already in there. I really just kind of took some components, customized them a little bit via properties or switched them out. And I really just didn't even came up with any new colors. I just used the ones that were already predefined in the UI kit. So this is, I'm sure there's kind of a good learning curve around how to use Figma, but at least with the UI kit, you don't have to come up with everything from scratch. And it really does save you a lot of time with the auto layout functionality. So how are we doing? Any questions so far? What else would you like to see in our fake digital asset wallet? Or any other topics to cover here?
Christoph, this is Yashraj here. I was just wondering, how do we incorporate like design elements that are not in the existing UI kit, but then make them, a part of the UI kit and the design system as a whole. Like, how do we make them feel like they are a part of the whole family, even if they were not like included earlier?
So are you interested in contributing to the original UI kit, or are you thinking about when you make your copy, how you add new components to it that are just for your own project?
Yeah. The latter.
Okay, cool. So let's talk about creating a new component. So what's the type of component that we want? Totally blanking here right now. Okay, let's create a component that let's say for all of our fake digital assets, we kind of want to have some type of card view. So I would typically, I almost never create anything new. Even when I want a text field, I will just copy one from another component here. So I just copied this text field here. So let's say this is we have this asset name, and then below that we want to kind of have a description of it, and we'll give it this color here. I'm going to press Shift A here, which groups the two and creates an auto layout. And then I'm going to, at the top here in the center, that's the button to create a component. And this component will be called the digital asset card representation. Not the real name, but cool. So I'm going to create a copy of it, and this is now an instance of it. And when I change the original, you'll see this one update here. So we want to have a nice card. So we want to have a color, and all our assets are green. So I'm going to make this green. And we want to have some type of gradient. So here on the top right, I can set a gradient. We'll give it a bit of spacing here. The color doesn't really look nice, so I'll use the light colors that we already have in our system here. And I'll adjust the spacing in between the text a little bit. Then I'll create, has the body 3 text, but I want the title to be a little bigger. Let's use this one. Okay, so now we have this component here. I'm going to go over here, and I'll take this one here, and I'm going to, let's see, I'm going to drag this one in, and I'm going to delete the other ones. And I want 3 of these because I have 3 fake digital assets. I'll go to the width settings and say they should fill their containers, so they adjust. And then I want a little bit of spacing between them. So I'm again using auto layout. And okay, so now we're going to have our cards in here. So this is how I would do it. I create kind of rough components, and I put them in a UI, and then I keep tweaking them. So here, I can kind of change the text already, copy pasting text. And then you'll realize if, even if I change the settings here of the text, the changes that I've made here on the left, they stay. Like, it doesn't reset the label when I make these changes. So, I don't just want to have a description. I actually want to have here an issuer. Because for me, it's important that I know who created this one, because otherwise I'll think this fake digital assets is worthless. Like, I want some authority to be behind this, just like we had here on the left. Copy these over here. Okay. And we also want, of course, just like earlier, we want to have our amount. And I'd like to, let's see, yeah, this one's maybe a little bit big. I'm going to change this to body 5. And this one's maybe also a little bit big. Let's use body title 4 instead. This one's also a little bit big. Everything's kind of too big. But the amount we kind of want to see nice and big. So here I had my 721. You had 5,000. You had 100. And these are actually, let's call them F yen. These are fake euro. And these are F dollars. And because I like gradients, I'm going to change here. Let's say I want to have a nice gradient here. So tweak it, and you can see all the other you can see how it carries over in all of the different instances of I love it. This is exactly how I want my wallet to look like. And we'll create some nice drop shadows here. Amazing. A little bit too big. A little bit too strong. And let's see, I can use also the auto layout here to have negative spacing, in which case they're going to overlap a little bit. They're going to get this overlapping effect. But yeah, I don't want this gradient here. Kind of looks weird. And here, this one I want to be blue. Yeah, okay. So yeah, that's how I would go about it. I would just kind of create a rough version of the component, kind of place it in the UI, and then just tweak it. And another really helpful thing is if you have a phone, probably most of you have, I assume, there's an app called Figma Mirror, and you can set it up. If you use it, any screen that you currently have selected, it will instantly show the screen that you've selected. And as you make changes, it will update on your phone pretty much in real time. So that gives you a real feel about what it actually looks like, and you can pick it up, you can pretend tap on it. That gives you a really good idea of how the design actually turns out when it's on a phone. Because when you have, let's say you have a big screen and you're really zoomed in, it might it might twist with your feel for the proportions and the sizes and all of this stuff. Another thing you can do here is, and this is probably not perfectly set up here, but let me just see. This is one of those things. Things kind of get out of whack a little bit easy sometimes. Fill, this is good. These need to be fill here. So once it's all set up correctly, then you can basically kind of fill. Once it's set up correctly, then you can pretty much resize this. And that allows you to quickly see how, let's say on an iPhone SE, you see everything's pretty tight. This is something that gets overlooked a lot of times, where people design it, they have like some nice, big, super massive phone, and everything looks amazing, but then you make it smaller and it's just not quite the right size. Yeah. Okay, cool. How did that answer your question?
Yeah, this looks great, Christoph, and it's quite fascinating to see all of this, So thank you.
Awesome. Yeah, and if you work with an existing project, I think one of the first things you really can do is go through and update all the text styles with the font that you use. So let's say, this here. Yeah, just go in and update all the text styles, update all the colors that you use. The UI kit uses 10 neutral colors from black to white, white to black, basically. And then there's one primary color, which is the orange, the Bitcoin orange. And then there are 4 accent colors, and that's really all it uses. And yeah, so that already gets you pretty far here. Oh yeah, something I forgot to mention, a dark mode is also included. And so if you take any light screen here, there's a plugin, Figma plugin called Lights. It allows you to switch the light on and off. And if you switch the light off, it switches everything over to dark mode. So you just need to click that button and it switches all of the colors over to the dark theme. And you get that for free with the UI kit. Like there are two variable sets for colors, one for the light mode, one for the dark mode. Each one has a total of 15 colors, and it really just kind of switches one to the other and back and forth. Yep. And yeah, I guess if you're looking for development information, there's a inspect tab in the top right, and that allows you to pretty much click on anything. Let's say I click on this text, and then in the right-hand side, I can say, well, I want this as CSS, or I want it for iOS. And then it gives me this, I hope you can see it on the right side here, shows me these code. It's the actual code that I need to use. I don't know much about iOS development, but this must be the code that you use to specify this text. I'm more familiar with a CSS. And you can see also here, is when I hover around things, different elements, it shows me how big they are, the distances from other areas. Like this is 20% padding on the left and right, and that is super useful for development. As a designer, you can also predefine different export settings. So let's say this icon here on the right-hand side, I have my export settings, and then the developer can easily come in through the inspect view, and with one button press, they can just export that. They don't have to worry about any settings there. So it is manual for sure, but to be honest, code and design are just so different. I don't know how you could ever fully automate these types of things. Yeah, cool. Anything else? Or I can also give you access in here. How about let's do this. Anyone with a link can edit. I'll copy this over here. I'll paste it in here. And if you'd like to join in now, feel free to hop in and start messing with this if you'd like. There you go, first hand appearing.
Hey, Christoph, I have a question if you have the time.
Yeah, of course.
I was wondering if this kit also includes web views. If you like to make a web page instead.
A web application or a website?
Well, web application. Actually, both. But let's begin with a web application.
Okay, so we have there's a page here on the left called Desktop Samples. And if you take a look at this one, it's actually exactly the same components. It's just a different size of frame. And I created this Wallet UI kit, and I tried to size the buttons and the text styles and all of this that it pretty much works for both. You might use them like on the web. You might use like one body size smaller. Or the smaller button size. On mobile, you might use one bigger, but it's pretty much the exact same set of components and sizes and everything. But yeah, it should get you to a pretty good start. It's not perfect, I think, but I think that's just one of the limitations of trying to build one highly flexible UI kit. So we're using the same component here. On mobile, you might use a tab bar like this one. And on desktop, you might use something like this here. So here we have wallet send receive at the top. And let me go to this main component. And let's say, I also want tab called assets here. So here we go. Now I have my assets tab wherever this appears. And then I'll just take my list of fake asset cards and I'll just paste that in here. Not delete all this other stuff. Yeah, I think that would be pretty unusable here if you're on the web and this is your super massive. You have these super massive cards. You probably would want to design it a little bit differently. But yeah, so it is not perfectly optimized for it, but it is usable for web application. And like I said, the Join Market Web UI used it, and Albi also used it for a desktop application. It's really just you resize your frame, and instead of the kind of the Chrome here at the top with the devil's horns and the typical UI mobile navigation pattern with a top bar and a tab bar at the bottom, you kind of come up with your own global navigation here. There's another one also that you see quite often. That's this sidebar here. Let's say I want to have a sidebar instead. I'll just paste the sidebar in here, and I don't want a top nav. I want to have so pretty quickly I can put together. I want this to fill the container, and I want a little bit of spacing here. Then I would have to go in and into the sidebar component and try to customize it to whatever options I have here, the icons that I use and whatnot. Yo. I think overall I think the elements are just a little bit too big for desktop, but I think they still work overall pretty well. Cool. We have around 3 minutes to the hour. Do you have any other questions or any follow-ups or anything else? You can also just hop in here and destroy this file. It's it's just a duplicate of the original UI kit. You can screw around with it, break it, mess with the colors, create more fake digital assets here if you'd like.
Well, I at least have no more questions. Thank you so much for this walkthrough. It was incredible. It was the first time I got in contact with Figma, and I still feel like I understood almost everything and feel ready to head into Figma and create my first design.
Awesome, great to hear. And yeah, feel free to reach out if you end up messing with this and you have questions later. Especially the auto layout it's kind of fragile a little bit if you're not. It's the same with web development in CSS. Like you can spend hours and hours debugging some just weird little layout behavior. It's unfortunately kind of the reality with these really responsive, flexible layouts that there's just a certain complexity that comes with it, and it's just not totally obvious. So feel free to reach out with any questions. I'm also curious to if you find any issues, anything not set up properly, any components that you think are missing or so. Also always happy to hear things. This is kind of the project's maybe a year old or so, and I do hope that every day, every month, it can just get a little bit better and better and more diverse and more useful. And by the way, in an hour and 15 minutes, there is a call about Taro with Leo from Lightning Labs. And I was actually thinking about, I don't know, using something I came up with here to kind of ask questions like exactly these types of things. Like, if I have a Taro wallet and I have digital assets, like why should I take those serious, right? Anyone can create this digital stuff for free, for pretty much free. It's just the cost of an on-chain transactions. Like why should it have value, right? And how do we communicate that within a wallet? Something I would like to explore a little bit more during the designathon. So yeah, you should also join that. That happens in an hour, 15 minutes. Yeah, cool.
Yeah, this has been awesome. Thanks, Christoph. This is really, really useful stuff. I'm going to try and make all the calls going forward.
Awesome. Cool, great to hear. Also, feel free to be critical. Totally cool too. I can take it. That's how we get better over time, right? So, but then I will stop the recording here. Actually, thank you before I stop the recording. Thank you for tuning in. And also, if anybody watches this on YouTube later, it's actually amazing that you made it all the way to the end of this. So also thank you for that. I'm going to stop here.